They have a great crowd here, great fan base. We expect a rowdy house. Wouldn't expect anything less. I think they've got a great basketball venue here.
Could you figure out during the season when you guys became such a decent, good road team and why it happened?
Well, I go back to the Oklahoma, Dallas, and San Antonio road trip. Sort of right after the trade. We made that road trip out there. We beat Oklahoma City, Dallas in overtime. I thought then, had a glimpse of what we had going forward then. And again, we're not a finished product yet. We're young, still learning. A lot of guys are seeing a lot of first-time situations. So I like our step. We're ahead of the curve a little bit in our growth process, but we'll take it.
So then, Pat Riley always talked about no rebounding, no rings. How much of a point of emphasis has your work on the glass been with this group?
Huge. I mean, that's been that way all year. It's just not for this series. We encourage our big guys to rebound. Again, Amir is one of the top rebounders and offensive rebounders in the league. JV has learned to offensive rebound. Tyler Hansborough, probably points per minute. Offensive rebounds per minute is one of the tops in the league. So we have an advantage from that standpoint of playing that way, but still you have to go out and do it and earn it each and every night.
How many times do you guys get offensive rebounds lying on their back, though?
Oh, no, not very many. That was the first. That was one of the few times. They didn't get an outlet pass on him. So that was a pretty good move by JV. Again, that kid is growing leaps and bounds every time he walks on the floor, and you know, the future is really bright for him.
That level of effort, Lamar was saying, that's been, particularly on the road, that's just been what this team has been about all year. That they go into a building already thinking everybody in this building is against us. Why? No, I was just going to say, does that mean that you don't really worry about what the reaction is going to be tomorrow?
No, you know, as a coach, I worry about everything. But as a team, our guys have been pretty resilient on the road, have a resolve of being together in a hostile atmosphere. So they've been pretty good from that. Being a young team is very unusual. Because I've been with older teams that were, you know, some of their eyes get big in places like Oklahoma City and back in the day in Portland. Again, it's a trait that they have that you can't put your finger on why they have some resolve that they do on the road. But this is going to be the first playoff atmosphere they've had, and it's going to be exciting to see how they react under the bright lights.
Coach, how are you talking Terrence through the early part of the learning process in the playoffs?
Keep playing basketball. It's the game. You know, fight through it, fight through the physicality, fight through the human nature aspect of it, of kind of cooling yourself out and not being really into it or too cool to go hard and slobber at the mouth. So those things are typical reactions from a young player, and I expected that, and we're trying to force feed him along through it. But not very many second-year players are in the playoffs starting in the playoffs.
Dwane, what does it mean for the growth of a young emerging player like DeMar to actually take over a fourth quarter of a playoff game for the first time and now have that under his belt? What does that do?
Well, it helps his confidence somewhat. You know, he made a big comeback from game one, which was huge, and I was happy for him. But you understand, game three is going to be even harder, and the double team is going to come quicker. The physicality is going to be there. The grabbing and holding is going to be there. So we got to bust through that, and he's got to bust through that, and we do have to do that as a team.
Coach, you know how important buy-in is with a lot of these guys. How has this organization, how have you got these guys to buy in the way they have?
I think consistency, you know, as corny as it may sound or simplified as it may sound, consistency. They know what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it before I say it. And you look down through the history, and that's the coaches I've had, whether it's Rick Carlisle, George Karl, talking to Jerry Sloan over the years, and watching him over the years. You've got to be the same way. Our defensive approach is the same. Our offensive approach is the same. You may not like it, but it's consistent. And I think consistency in this league is something that wins. I think if you change with the win your philosophy, or how you view things, or you know, everybody's on you about being an analytical team, a running team, got to get up tempo, be fast paced. You know, if you buy into that, and then the next week you come back and want to be a slow it down team, now the players are feeling the inconsistency.
How do you work on all the turnovers when obviously this is very different than what it's like in the actual game? How do you work on it in practice?
Well, you keep emphasizing it. Right? I think that's the most important thing. Like everything else, we've emphasized it for 2 days. It's not like we haven't been emphasizing all year, but with a team like Brooklyn, who's a very physical, very hands-on, grab, reaching for the ball type team, you got to really be strong with the ball, get low with it, and make the ABC passes and not skip a letter of the alphabet to try to make a pass. I think that's where you get in trouble.
Role continuing, what he did in game 2. Obviously,
We'll see. Again, each game is different. Each game is going to be different, whether it's personnel driven or what our emphasis are on defense or what we're trying to do defensively. So we're going to have to read that, and those are the adjustments you have to make throughout the playoffs.
What did you think of how he played, Dylan?
I thought he played solid. We have John Salmons there who's been having a few back issues, but we need to find out what Landry could do, and he came through and played solid. Again, you're not going to stop a guy like Joe Johnson or Pierce or Darren Williams, and what we just try to do is disrupt their rhythm a little bit and take them out of plan A. And and again, our adjustment is going to be what are they going to do next, how are they going to come at us the next time around.
The other night, Charles Barkley after game 2 said nothing he's seen so far has made him think that Toronto's not going to win this series. Do you believe that Charles is?
Well, I respect Charles. I love Charles, but we still got to go out and do it. They still have to come out and beat us, and the games have to still be played. I don't think you can sit back and predict this time of year what's going to happen. Only thing we have to do is be prepared to go in the game and try to play our game and let the chips fall where they may.
Masai, is he going to be all right sitting in the stands?
Well, I told him I wasn't going to sit next to him or anything like that, but he's fine. He's seen a lot, so he's going to be okay.